The strongest Jedi to ever live are often assumed to be whichever name fans shout loudest: Luke, Yoda, Vader's opponent. But raw reputation doesn't prove anything. We rank the 10 most powerful Jedi by demonstrable power, clear combat feats, decisive force displays that changed outcomes, and the kind of influence that reshaped galactic events. The point is to put evidence side by side and see who actually did the things that demand the label strongest. Our criteria are simple and practical. Priority goes to verified, repeatable displays of force ability and battlefield dominance in canon and high-level legends where those feats altered history. Secondary factors include mastery across force disciplines, exceptional dueling records, and legacy, whether a Jedi's actions permanently shifted the balance of power. What follows is a straight countdown from 10 to 1, with each entry named, justified by concrete examples, and placed where the documented power deserves. No hypotheticals, no popularity contests, just measured cases of Jedi ability and the real consequences that flowed from them. Number 10. Plo Koon. Plo Koon earns this spot because he turns dependable battlefield performance into measurable advantage. As a member of the Jedi High Council and a frontline commander during the Clone Wars, he repeatedly led strike teams, coordinated starfighters, and moved between space engagements and ground operations with tactical calm. What separates him from many other skilled Jedi is a trained, practical force intuition. Plo can sense subtle disturbances, spot ambushes before they unfold, and read the battlefield in ways that save squads of clone troopers and keep missions alive. He's not the sort of Jedi who rewrites what the Force can do, but he is consistently decisive in duels and skirmishes, survives contact with lethal enemies more often than not, and applies his Force talents to reconnaissance, piloting, and protective combat. That reliability, measured results under pressure, puts him in the top 10. Commanders and generals choose Plo for dangerous field assignments because his strengths translate directly into survival and mission success. Number 9. Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto ranks here for one clear reason: elite, one-on-one combat ability. Nautolan physiology plus decades of lightsaber training make him especially dangerous in close quarters and in unusual environments like underwater operations, and his timing and blade work are consistently portrayed as among the Order's best. He was one of the 4 masters sent to arrest Chancellor Palpatine, Mace Windu's immediate backup, an assignment that signals how the Order evaluated his skill and trustworthiness. Across Clone Wars material, he repeatedly turns chaotic engagements into technical victories, using speed, precision, and composure to defeat foes who overwhelm lesser duelists. He lacks the sweeping, spectacle-level force displays of the very top tier, but in pure dueling, endurance, and adaptability, Kit Fisto is elite. Someone you send when a fight comes down to skill and stamina in single combat. Number 8. Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon sits above many masters because his strengths alter both immediate outcomes and long-term history. In combat, he fought with a loose, decisive style. He beat powerful opponents in split-second judgments and fought ferociously when it mattered most famously against Darth Maul. But Qui-Gon's real impact comes from 2 concrete things. He identified Anakin Skywalker's potential and fought to bring him into the Order, a choice that redirected galactic events. And he pioneered practical study of the living Force in ways that produced new, teachable Force knowledge. His inquiries led directly to the later technique of maintaining consciousness after death, an actual, demonstrable piece of Force lore rather than abstract doctrine. Qui-Gon's placement reflects that mix: substantial combat skill plus philosophical and technical innovations that changed what Jedi could do, even if he didn't match the raw output of the very oldest or most prodigious practitioners. Number 7. Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka earns this rank because she kept getting better after she left the Order, and her accomplishments are both tactical and strategic. Trained as Anakin's apprentice, she became a specialist in dual saber forms and close-quarters improvisation. But her evolution after leaving the Jedi Order is the decisive factor. As fulcrum, she ran an intelligence and sabotage network that scored concrete victories against separatists and Imperial agents. On the battlefield, she repeatedly neutralized major threats, outmaneuvered enemy commanders, and survived duels that would have ended many Jedi careers. Her fights with Darth Maul on Mandalore and her later emotionally brutal duel with Darth Vader in the Rebels era are proof points. Ahsoka can sustain herself against sustained dark side power and come away able to act again. She isn't merely strong in isolated moments. Her sustained independent growth, tactical versatility, and record of changing political and military outcomes lift her into the top 10. Ahsoka shows that leaving the institution didn't stunt Force potential. It sharpened it into a different, highly effective kind of mastery. These four close out the lower half of the top 10. Each represents a different model of Jedi strength. Plo Koon's dependable tactical sense, Kit Fisto's exceptional dueling, Qui-Gon Jinn's practical innovations to Force lore, and Ahsoka Tano's sustained, independent ascent. None reach the planet-shaking or century-spanning mastery of the very top masters, but all are proven threats in single decisive encounters and pivotal campaigns. Next, we move into ranks 6 through 3, Jedi whose victories changed wars and whose abilities begin to push into the rarefied air of those who reshape the galaxy. Number 6. Rey. Rey earns this spot because nothing about her strength is subtle. It is rapid, decisive, and story-changing. She arrives as a scavenger and, within a single trilogy, masters telekinesis, dueling, and a form of collective Jedi empowerment powerful enough to end Palpatine's return. Her clear early proof is physical. In The Force Awakens, she pulls Anakin's lightsaber from the snow and later manipulates multiple opponents and wreckage under combat stress. Across The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, she holds extended fights with Kylo Ren, resists attempts to possess or consume her, and ultimately accesses the living memory of past Jedi to channel a sustained, overwhelming Force strike that destroys a Sith who has returned at full strength. Those are not isolated stunts. They have direct, galaxy-scale consequence. Rey's actions remove Palpatine's immediate threat and restore a lineage of Jedi influence. Why not higher? The answer is training and breadth. Rey's feats happen after an abrupt awakening and an intense period of accelerated learning. She displays astonishing raw capacity and decisive narrative outcomes, but she lacks centuries of disciplined practice and the long record of varied, sustained mastery other top entries show. Questions remain about how her abilities would hold up across decades, in diverse environments, or against the deepest layers of the dark side. For impact and raw talent, Rey ranks very high. For proven longevity and exhaustive technique, she falls short of the absolute elite. Number 5. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan sits here because his strength is the product of consistency, tactical intelligence, and a career that produced repeatable, decisive results. He is the archetypal survivor, a Ceresu specialist whose defensive mastery turns attrition into victory. That form isn't glamorous, but it is ruthlessly effective. It allowed him to defeat Darth Maul as a young Padawan, outmaneuver Dooku and Separatist commanders over years of campaigning, and ultimately best Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar at the height of Anakin's power. Obi-Wan's duels are often about timing, endurance, and forcing an opponent into a mistake. He excels where patience and discipline win wars. Beyond single fights, Obi-Wan's influence is structural. He served as a field commander through the Clone Wars, survived Order 66, spent decades in exile preserving the future of the Jedi, and then trained Luke Skywalker at the turning point for the entire galaxy. That combination of battlefield reliability and generational stewardship is why Obi-Wan ranks above flashier warriors. His strength is not only in his saber arm, but in his ability to keep the mission alive. His limitation is also clear. He rarely demonstrates planet-shaking Force displays or the kind of raw, reality-shaping power some higher-ranked Jedi use. Obi-Wan's power is decisive and reliable, but narrowly focused on endurance, tactics, and moral steadiness rather than cosmic force manipulation. Number 4. Mace Windu. Mace occupies this slot because he is the Jedi Order's combat heavyweight and its most dangerous avenue for confronting the dark side directly. His signature is Vapad, a lightsaber form that does more than attack. It redirects an opponent's inner darkness into offensive momentum. Vapad demands immense discipline. It flirts with the dark side so the user can weaponize an adversary's hate and aggression. That makes Windu uniquely suited to stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most lethal Sith. The clearest canonical demonstration is his duel with Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. Windu forces Sidious out of political cover and into a pure fight, absorbing and deflecting Force lightning, countering Palpatine's surges of power, and pushing the Sith Lord to the brink of defeat. For a canonical instant, Windu shows he can contend with, perhaps even overcome, a fully unleashed Sith. That duel proves his lightsaber form and raw power are not merely theoretical advantages. They translate into capacity to neutralize the gravest threats the Order faces. Why not higher? 2 factors: risk and truncated legacy. Vapad's strength is also its hazard. It is not a broadly deployable technique because it requires a moral and psychological fortitude most Jedi lack. Second, Windu's canonical arc ends with his death and a major what if. Had his confrontation with Palpatine continued without Anakin's betrayal, the shape of the galaxy would likely have been different. As it stands, Windu is arguably the Order's deadliest duelist against dark-side masters, but he lacks the multi-century institutional influence and the fully documented record of scalable Force mastery that characterize the top 3. These 3 show 3 different models of strength: Rey's explosive narrative-level ascent, Obi-Wan's steady, survivable excellence and strategic consequence, and Mace Windu's combative supremacy tailored to confronting the dark side. Each belongs in the middle tier because they change battles and outcomes, but each also leaves room, in longevity, consistency, or institutional reach, for the few Jedi who sit above them. Number 3. Anakin Skywalker as Jedi. Anakin earns 3rd place because nothing in the Order's recorded history matches his raw, kinetic potential before the fall. He's the archetypal prodigy, piloting reflexes that amount to precognition, an instinctive fighting style that blends brutal aggression with surgical precision, and a Force presence that genuinely alters battlefield dynamics. On film and in the Clone Wars, he repeatedly turns engagements with veteran opponents, Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress, waves of separatist commanders, into one-man collapses of enemy plans. The most concrete, canonical evidence is his dual victories and decisive battlefield performance. His ability to defeat Dooku with speed and ferocity, to rout squads of foes while protecting comrades, and to execute plays in the air and on land that rely on an uncanny, almost anticipatory rapport with the Force. Why not higher? The limitation is twofold. First, Anakin's power, while staggering, is uneven and tied to emotion. That volatility both fuels his peak moments and guarantees spectacular failure modes. Second, his legacy as a Jedi is truncated. His greatest potential is never matured into the long-term, disciplined mastery that produces reliably repeatable feats across decades. He's the Order's rawest weapon, but a weapon that self-detonates. In strictly comparative terms, Anakin can outmatch almost any opponent in a moment of feral clarity. He lacks the centuries and institutional continuity that enable the next two to operate at a different scale. Number 2. Yoda. Yoda sits above Anakin because his power combines technical excellence, doctrinal depth, and extraordinary longevity. Centuries of training are not just a trivia point, they translate into a catalogue of combat styles, problem-solving templates, and an intimacy with the Force's limits that young prodigies don't have time to develop. Canonically, the clearest demonstration of Yoda's tier is his confrontation with Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. In that duel, Yoda is agile, inventive, and able to contest, for real, one of the galaxy's most dangerous darksiders. Beyond single duels, Yoda's role as Grand Master and as a battlefield leader in the Clone Wars shows he can apply Force ability across scales. Tactical telekinesis, battlefield foresight, and the psychological steadiness to keep the Order functional under collapse. Yoda's advantages are discipline and scope. He doesn't rely on flashes of instinct. He structures his power into techniques that are survivable and teachable. He also exemplifies the Jedi ideal of restraint, which makes his power safer and more sustainable than the raw fury of someone like Anakin. He ranks behind Luke because, while Yoda embodies perfected Jedi practice, the deepest known canon mastery of Jedi craft, he never displays the single, universe-shifting demonstration of Force application that Luke produces late in his life. Yoda's peak is absolute highest-tier Jedi mastery. Luke's peak, however, adds a new vector of influence. Number 1. Luke Skywalker. Luke takes the top spot because his post-return arc combines the raw power potential of Anakin, Yoda's doctrinal and teaching influence, and one canonical feat that redefines what a single Jedi can do strategically. At the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke is already a formidable duelist and moral center. In the sequels, his accomplishments escalate. The defining canonical moment is the Last Jedi's Force projection from Ahch-To to Crate, a sustained, planet-spanning illusion that physically occupied space and interacted with other Force users across vast distances. That projection absorbed the full cost of Luke's life force. It was not a trick of perception, but a genuine application of Force power on a scale unseen elsewhere in modern canon. Practically, it enabled the Resistance to escape and change the political balance in a single night. Beyond that headline feat, Luke's influence as a teacher and institution builder, even when it fails, is essential. In Legends, Luke rebuilds a galaxy-level Jedi Order. In canon, his brief academy, his arrangement of myths and texts, and the inspiration he provides to Rey and later generations show that his reach is structural as well as combative. He evolves the role of a Jedi from isolated warrior to architect of legacy, and that synthesis is what puts him above Yoda and Anakin. Where Anakin peaked and burned, and where Yoda sustained and perfected, Luke created a new modality of power, strategic Force application backed by moral and institutional consequence. That single, unmistakable canonical demonstration of Force projection, combined with the proven ability to translate Force skill into cultural and organizational influence, is the clear reason he sits at the top. These three represent different models of why a Jedi is the strongest. Anakin is unrefined potential made explosive in combat. Yoda is refined, multi-century mastery and doctrinal depth. Luke is the synthesis, high-end power, tactical creativity, and the capacity to turn personal ability into galaxy-level outcomes. Each outranks the Jedi below them because they add a dimension the others lack: raw capacity, perfected discipline, or structural, narrative-changing application. That comparison makes the top spot straightforward. Luke's combination of unprecedented canonical Force application and lasting influence puts him above every other practitioner we've reviewed. Across the list, we graded 3 different kinds of strength. Anakin represents explosive, unmatched raw potential and combat dominance. Yoda embodies centuries of refined technique, philosophical depth, and unshakable discipline. Luke combines both: high-level Force power, inventive tactical uses, and the proven ability to convert personal ability into lasting, galaxy-wide change. That combination is why Luke takes the top spot: a single canonical moment of Force projection paired with demonstrable cultural and institutional impact outweighs sheer power or perfected mastery alone. This is the verdict based on current canon and clear narrative effects. Future films, books, or a reassessment of Legends evidence could add feats or context that reshuffle the order. For now, the strongest Jedi to ever live is Luke Skywalker, not just for what he could do, but for what he left the galaxy capable of doing.